For 1,000 years, Earth had been silent from war. No armies, no weapons, no bloodshed. Humanity had finally learned that peace was not something to fight for. It was something to live for. After the Great Unity Treaty of 2124, the nations of Earth had decided to put down their weapons forever. It had been a long journey, centuries of mistakes, pain, and lessons. But when people finally realized that no victory was worth a broken world, everything changed. Cities became green. Forests spread again. Oceans, once polluted and gray, turned deep blue. The sky cleared and stars could be seen from every corner of the planet. Humans no longer fought each other. Instead, they built, created, and dreamed. Children were raised in a world where the word war was something they only read in ancient books. Soldiers became historians and weapons were melted down to create art. Humanity had grown, not just in knowledge, but in heart. It was called the Era of Eternal Peace. For 1,000 years, no one had broken it. Until that morning, it began quietly. A soft static sound hummed through every communication device on Earth. Screens flickered. The soft music in cafes stopped playing. Drones in the sky froze mid-air. And then the sky turned silver. A voice, deep, cold, and powerful, echoed across every city, every satellite, every moon base. It was not human. It had a tone that carried both pride and anger. "This is the Zathari Dominion," the voice said. "The 1,000-year peace is over. Prepare yourselves for war." The message was clear, repeated in every known human language. People stopped what they were doing. A child holding a glowing toy stared up at the sky in confusion. A teacher in the floating school over the Atlantic paused her lesson. Farmers in New Africa looked at each other, unsure whether to be afraid or amused. Then came the sight that no one would ever forget. From beyond the clouds, they arrived. Huge silver ships shaped like floating mountains cut through the clouds and hovered silently above Earth's atmosphere. Each one glowed with a soft blue light, and from a distance they looked like pieces of a giant moon hanging above the world. People didn't scream. No one ran. Instead, they stared, in wonder, not fear. It had been so long since humanity had seen violence that most didn't even recognize what danger looked like anymore. The sight was beautiful, too beautiful to be frightening. In the city of Solara Prime, the capital of the United Earth Union, a woman stood on the balcony of a crystal tower. Her name was Dr. Arya Solon, head of the Global Science Council. She was in her mid-40s, tall and calm, with eyes that held both intelligence and kindness. Her young assistant, Milo, stood beside her, watching the alien ships hover above the clouds. His hands trembled slightly. "Dr. Arya," he said softly, "are they real?" Arya smiled faintly. "Yes, Milo, they're real. They've finally come." "Come? You mean you expected this?" Arya turned toward him, her silver hair glowing in the morning light. "Everything in the universe seeks balance. We've lived in peace for 1,000 years. Eventually something was bound to test it. But they said, 'War,'" Milo whispered. "What if they attack us?" Arya looked at him gently. "Do you even know what war is?" He opened his mouth, then stopped. He had read about wars, of course, in the old history archives and simulations that showed what humans once did to one another. But he had never felt it. To him, war was like a story from another world. "I don't think we need to fight them," Arya said softly. "We only need to remind them who we've become." The Zathari Dominion had expected fear. They had studied humans from afar for centuries. In their records, humanity was described as a violent, emotional, and unpredictable race, a species that had destroyed their own world multiple times before learning to rebuild it. So, when the Zathari sent their message of war, they waited for chaos, screaming, panic, governments preparing armies, cities going dark, but nothing happened. Instead, they saw people gathering in the streets, pointing at the sky, smiling. Children waved at their ships. Some even took pictures. The Zathari fleet commander, Valthar, stood inside the command chamber of the flagship Eternal Blade. His eyes glowed green as he observed Earth through a projection. He turned to his advisor, a smaller alien named Rin-Al. "Why are they not afraid?" Valthar demanded. Rin-Al hesitated. "Their energy readings show calmness, Commander. No military mobilization. No weapon activation. They appear to be watching us." Valthar narrowed his eyes. "Mockery. They think this is a game." He pressed his claw against a glowing console and sent another broadcast. "Humans of Earth," the alien voice thundered again. "You misunderstand. This is not an invitation. This is a declaration of war. Kneel or be erased." Every screen on Earth flashed with the message. Every ear heard it. And then came the reply. From Earth's main communication hub, a small message was transmitted back to the alien fleet. It was simple. Just one line. "You're welcome to visit. We have tea." The message confused the Zathari. Velthar stared at it for a long moment. "Tea?" he repeated slowly. Renal tilted his head. "It appears to be a beverage, Commander." The commander's voice hardened. "Are they mocking us?" Back on Earth, laughter spread through the world. The message became a symbol of calm defiance, a reminder of how far humanity had come. Dr. Arya Solon was standing in front of the Global Council when the news arrived. Reporters surrounded her, asking questions about the aliens' threat. "Dr. Solon, what is the government's response? Are we preparing for defense? Do we have weapons ready?" Arya smiled patiently. "No, we don't have weapons. We have communication and wisdom. That's enough. But what if they attack?" a young journalist asked nervously. Arya looked up at the sky. "Then we'll invite them to understand why we laugh instead of fear." That night, the alien fleet hovered silently in the clouds. Their ships glowed like silver moons reflecting on the calm oceans below. Humanity went to sleep peacefully as if nothing had happened. Children dreamed of star visitors, not invaders. But on the Eternal Blade, the Zathari commander was growing restless. "Commander," Rinal said carefully, "their planetary defenses are non-existent. They have no armies, no fleets, no weapons of mass energy. Yet they do not surrender." Velthar frowned. "It makes no sense. A species that has forgotten war should tremble before power." He activated the memory sphere, a holographic record of Earth's history. Images filled the air. Humans fighting, burning cities, broken nations. And then slowly those images changed. People rebuilding, helping each other, smiling, reaching for the stars together. "What happened to them?" the commander murmured.
"How did they change?"
Rinal's voice was quiet. "Maybe they learned something we never did." The next morning, the world awoke to another message from the aliens. "You have one Earth day to surrender. Resistance will lead to your destruction." Again, humans only smiled. In a small mountain village, an old man looked at the sky and whispered, "So the stars are angry again." He chuckled softly. "Let them come. Maybe they need a little peace too." In lunar colonies, people gathered to watch the alien ships like they were fireworks. On Mars, engineers discussed whether the aliens might want to trade technology. On Earth, artists began painting the silver ships in the sky. Humanity had changed. They had seen enough of destruction to never return to it again. Inside the Global Council chamber, Arya stood before the world leaders, not rulers, but caretakers. Their holographic forms surrounded her like shining lights. She spoke calmly. "We must not meet violence with fear. The Zathari believe they can control us through power. Let's show them that true power is peace." The leaders agreed. A single plan was made, and no armies, no ships, no weapons. "Only communication, understanding, and patience. We will not fight them," Arya declared. "We will welcome them." That evening, Earth sent one more transmission to the alien fleet. It was a simple video message. It showed people laughing, planting trees, building homes, helping others. It showed a world that had healed. And at the end of the message, Dr. Arya Solon appeared. Her voice was calm and warm. "You've declared war," she said softly. "But there is no war left in us. We invite you to understand us, and not as enemies, but as guests. If you wish to talk, we will share tea beneath the same sky." The message ended, and for the first time in 1,000 years, the stars above Earth seemed to pause, as if the universe itself was listening. The next day began with a quiet sunrise. Golden light poured across oceans and forests, and birds sang as if nothing unusual had happened. Yet above the clouds, the Zathari fleet still hovered, silver giants watching a blue world that refused to kneel. Commander Velthar stood before the great window of his flagship, the Eternal Blade. His tall, slender frame was tense. His emerald eyes studied Earth with a mix of confusion and disbelief. He had fought 100 battles across distant galaxies. He had conquered planets where enemies screamed and fought until their last breath. But never, Not once. Hetty faced silence. His advisor, Rinal, entered the chamber carrying a glowing tablet that displayed streams of human communication. "Commander," he said carefully, "our scans show that humans continue their daily activities. They have not built defenses. They are not preparing for war." Valthar turned sharply. "Then what are they doing?" Rinal hesitated. "They are celebrating. Many are holding gatherings, watching us from their cities, sharing messages of peace. Some are even sending musical signals into space. They seem happy to see us." "Happy?" the commander repeated in disbelief. "Do they mock us?" Rinal's voice lowered. "Maybe not, Commander. Maybe they truly are not afraid." Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Arya Solon walked through the bright corridors of the Global Science Council building. Her silver-gray hair reflected the morning light, and her calm eyes carried quiet determination. She had spent the entire night in communication meetings discussing the alien message. Her assistant Milo followed behind, carrying data tablets. "Dr. Arya, the entire world is watching us. Some want to prepare defenses, but most believe we should continue to talk." Arya nodded slowly. "Fear spreads faster than truth, Milo. But when people see others staying calm, fear loses its power." They entered the central control room, a circular hall filled with soft blue light. Holographic images of the alien ships floated in the air. Arya touched one of the projections. The ship rotated slowly, showing its intricate design. "These ships," she said softly, "are not built for destruction. They're explorers, armored, yes, but they carry observation cores, not heavy cannons. The Zathari are not here to destroy. They're here to test." "Test?" Milo frowned. "Test what?" "Our hearts," Arya replied simply. "They want to see if peace has made us weak. But they will find it has made us stronger." Up above, Commander Valthar stood before his war council. The room was filled with officers in dark armor, their faces glowing under the green light of alien symbols. "We cannot waste time," one officer growled. "They mock our authority. We should strike, show them the power of the Dominion." Another officer nodded. A single energy wave could bring their world to its knees. Valthar remained silent. He walked to the center of the room and studied the holographic map of Earth. "They have no armies," he murmured. "No fleets, no weapons. But look closer, the planet itself is alive. Their power lies not in machines, but in harmony." He turned toward his officers. "I will not destroy what I do not understand." The room fell silent. Some officers exchanged uncertain looks. "Prepare a descent unit," Valthar commanded. "I will go to Earth myself." "Commander?" Rinal stepped forward, alarmed. "That is dangerous. What if they trick you?" Valthar smiled faintly, a rare gesture among his kind. "If they truly are what they claim, I will not need to fight." The sky over Solara Prime shimmered that afternoon. The people gathered in open fields and on the rooftops of shining towers. Children pointed at the clouds as a streak of silver light descended slowly toward the ground. The Zathari commander had arrived. His landing craft touched down gently in the Council Plaza, a wide area surrounded by glass, towers and green gardens. The air was warm and peaceful. When the doors opened, a figure stepped out, tall, graceful, and glowing faintly with blue light. Gasps filled the air. Some people clapped softly, while others whispered in awe. Dr. Arya Solon was there to welcome him. She stepped forward, calm and unarmed, her white robe flowing in the soft breeze. "Welcome to Earth," she said gently. Valthar studied her. Her voice was steady, her eyes fearless. For a moment he could not understand why she felt so familiar. "You are their leader?" he asked. "I am a scientist," she replied. "I speak for reason, not power." Valthar tilted his head. "Your species confuses me. We threaten you with war, yet you welcome us with calm." "Why?" Arya smiled softly. "Because fear is a memory, not our truth. We learned long ago that those who live in fear can never live in peace. You can destroy our cities, but not what we've become." Her words echoed gently through the plaza. The commander looked around. People were standing nearby, not hiding, not shaking. A small child ran past him laughing, holding a bright balloon. For a brief second, he saw a reflection of something the Zathari had lost long ago: innocence. Hours passed as the commander was escorted through the city. Everywhere he went, people smiled and greeted him. Drones floated around, recording the historic moment. The Zathari guards who had followed their commander were confused and tense. They expected hostility or defense systems, but instead they were offered food, music, and art. At one point, a young boy approached Vielthar holding a small white flower. "This is for you," the child said shyly. The alien looked at the fragile flower in his large metallic hand. "Why give this to me?" "Because you look sad," the boy replied simply, then ran back to his family. For the first time in centuries, Vielthar felt something he had forgotten: warmth. As the day turned into evening, Vielthar stood beside Arya on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. Lights shimmered across the skyline, and the sound of laughter drifted up from the streets below. "Your people do not fear death," he said quietly. "They fear losing kindness," Arya replied. "That's far worse." Vielthar turned to her. "Why did you not prepare weapons?" "Why did you not fight?" Arya looked at the stars. "We tried fighting before, and many centuries ago. We won battles but lost everything that mattered. When peace finally came, we promised never to forget what war did to us. That promise built this world." He listened silently. Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of truth. "Perhaps," Arya continued, "your people came not to destroy us, but to remember something they lost. Something even power cannot bring back." Vielthar's voice lowered. "You think we've forgotten peace?" "I think you've forgotten laughter," she said softly. "The universe is full of noise, but very little joy." That night, the Zathari commander returned to his ship. He sat alone in the quiet observation deck, watching the planet below. It glowed softly, a world at rest. Rinhal entered quietly. "Commander, what did you learn?" Vielthar didn't answer for a moment. His gaze remained fixed on the blue world. "They are strange. They welcome death with smiles. They have no army, yet I sense no weakness. Then shall we attack?" Rinhal asked hesitantly. Vielthar shook his head. "No, not yet. There is something deeper here, something I must understand." He placed the white flower, still glowing faintly, on the console before him. "This world does not resist with power. It resists with peace." Meanwhile, on Earth, Milo approached Dr. Arya as she stood outside the council hall. "Do you think they'll still attack?" he asked softly. Arya smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe they've already begun to change." Milo frowned. "Change them?" "Why would they change?" "Because peace spreads like light, Milo," she said gently. "Even in the darkest corners of space, light finds a way." She looked up at the stars where the alien ship still floated. 1,000 years ago, we fought for power. Now we protect something greater: understanding." The next morning, a strange signal came from the Zathari fleet. It was not a threat, it was music. Soft, strange, beautiful music. The sound played across every communication device on Earth. It had no words, only a melody that carried both sadness and wonder. It was the Zathari's way of speaking without war. People listened quietly, some with tears in their eyes. They understood even without translation. Dr. Arya smiled when she heard it. "They're trying to speak our language. Not through words, but through heart." Later that day, the Zathari commander sent another message to Earth. "We will delay our attack. We request to learn more about your people." The Global Council agreed. For the first time in history, an alien race that had come to conquer instead began to learn. Vielthar and his crew walked among humans, studying their lives, their music, their gardens, their laughter. They saw how people worked together without fear, how even disagreements ended in understanding. The commander began to see something powerful, that peace was not weakness, but the greatest strength a civilization could have. As the sun set once again, Arya stood on the same balcony where it had all begun. The sky shimmered with the reflection of alien ships, now silent and calm. She whispered to herself, "The 1,000-year peace is not over. It's only being tested." And far above, Commander Vielthar looked down at Earth and whispered in his own tongue, "Perhaps this is what victory truly looks like." The silver ships still floated above Earth like silent moons. Days had passed since the Zathari commander, Vielthar, first landed on the planet. What was meant to be a brief mission of domination had turned into something none of them expected: curiosity. The people of Earth had welcomed their visitors without fear. They shared music, art, food, and stories. And the aliens, who had once lived for conquest, began to feel something unfamiliar: peace. But not everyone among the Zathari fleet agreed with Vielthar's decision to delay the attack. In the vast command deck of the Eternal Blade, The green light shimmered across metal walls as the Council of War gathered again. The officers' faces were sharp and unreadable. Admiral Corvus, Vaelthar's most trusted warrior, stepped forward. "Commander," he said firmly, "our soldiers are restless. They trained their entire lives for battle. Now they stand idle while you walk among the humans as if you are one of them." Vaelthar remained calm. "Do you question my command, Corvus?" "I question your purpose," Corvus replied, his voice low but strong. "You said we would reclaim our glory, yet you bring us here to listen to songs and drink their strange liquids. We are the Zethari, conquerors, not visitors." Vaelthar turned to face him. His emerald eyes glowed softly. "And what has conquest given us, Admiral?"
Endless battles.
"Empty victories. Planets that remember our anger but never our kindness." Corvus narrowed his eyes. "Peace makes you weak, Commander." Vaelthar shook his head slowly. "No, it makes us remember what strength really means." The room fell silent. The other officers exchanged uncertain glances. None dared to speak against their commander, but the tension was heavy. The old warriors did not understand this strange new calm that had come over him. Down on Earth, life moved peacefully as always. Humans continued to treat the Zethari like guests rather than enemies. The streets of Solara Prime were filled with people smiling and offering gifts to the visitors from the stars. Children painted pictures of the aliens, calling them sky friends. Farmers offered fruits and flowers. Artists created songs inspired by the strange melody the Zethari had sent earlier. Dr. Arya Solon walked through the plaza where the commander had first landed. Her assistant Milo walked beside her carrying a recording device. "People love them now," Milo said with a grin. "A few months ago we didn't even know they existed, and now children are writing stories about them." Arya smiled softly. "Fear fades quickly when kindness replaces it. That's the beauty of being human." She looked up at the ships that glowed faintly in the evening light. "But I can feel something changing. They're not just observing anymore. They're questioning themselves." That evening, Vaelthar returned to Earth again. He stood with Arya in the Garden of Reflection, a quiet place filled with glowing flowers and soft wind. The two of them often met there, talking for hours about life, peace, and the stars. "You humans are strange," Vaelthar said softly. "You laugh even when faced with danger. You forgive even when there is no reason. How did you become this way?" Arya looked at the horizon where the sun touched the sea. "Because we've seen what hate can do. 1,000 years ago, we almost destroyed ourselves. Every city burned. Every family lost someone. When the world finally went quiet, we looked around and realized there was nothing left to win. Only life itself was worth saving." Vaelthar listened in silence. The gentle sound of water fountains echoed around them. "Sometimes," Arya continued, "peace isn't a gift. It's a decision. One you have to make again and again even when it's hard." The alien commander's voice was soft. "Our people never learned that. We conquered because we feared being conquered. We fought because we did not know how to live without war. Perhaps that is our greatest weakness." Arya turned to him. "Then maybe you came here not to fight us, but to find yourselves again." For a moment, neither spoke. The stars above shimmered like tears in the sky. But far above, aboard the Eternal Blade, Admiral Corvus could not accept what he saw as betrayal. He gathered a secret group of loyal soldiers in the shadow of the engine halls. "We cannot let our kind be softened by these creatures," Corvus said in a harsh whisper. "The commander has lost his edge. He is no longer Zethari, he is human." A murmur of anger filled the room. One soldier stepped forward. "What will we do, Admiral?" Corvus' eyes flashed with determination. "We will remind the galaxy who we are. We will show these humans the meaning of power." He activated a hidden control on his arm panel. "Prepare the Crimson Wing. At dawn we strike the city. A small attack, just enough to remind them we can." The next morning, Arya stood in her lab when the alarms began to echo through the city. The calm blue lights of Solara Prime turned red for the first time in 1,000 years. Milo ran in, breathless. "Dr. Arya!" "Look outside!" Through the glass walls she saw it. A small Zethari ship breaking from the main fleet, diving toward Earth. Trails of fire followed behind it. The sound was loud but not terrifying, more like thunder rolling across the sky. "It's not Commander Vaelthar's ship," Milo said quickly. "It's someone else." Arya's heart tightened. "They're making their own move." The crimson wing descended fast, its energy cannons glowing. It fired at an empty field outside the city, not enough to harm, but enough to cause panic. The ground shook and the sky flashed with light. People screamed and ran for cover. For the first time in centuries, Earth felt the shadow of war again. But even then, something unexpected happened. Instead of retaliation, people rushed to help each other. No one shouted for revenge. No weapons were drawn. The emergency teams, built for rescue, moved quickly to calm the chaos. And within minutes, the danger was over. Valthar, who had been orbiting nearby, saw everything. His heart, once cold and metallic, burned with anger and shame. He ordered his personal ship to descend immediately. He landed near the damaged field where smoke rose into the morning sky. Humans gathered there, working together to heal the wounded and rebuild what was broken. There was no hatred in their faces, only care. Arya was there too, helping a child whose arm was bruised. When she saw Valthar, she looked up, calm but sad. "Was this your order?" she asked quietly. Valthar's voice was heavy. "No, it was my failure. My own people have forgotten to listen." He looked around at the humans, at their strength and calmness, their courage and compassion. "Your people do not fight even when attacked. You confuse me." Arya wiped dust from her face and said gently, "We are not confused, Commander. We simply refuse to become what we once were." Her words struck deep within him. He turned toward the sky and sent a direct transmission to his fleet. "Admiral Corvus, stand down. Return to formation immediately." There was silence. Then a defiant voice answered through the comms. "You've become one of them, Valthar. If you won't act, I will." And then the signal cut off. That night, the Earth's skies were filled with tension. The Zathari fleet glowed faintly, silent but restless. Everyone waited to see what would happen next. Inside the Global Council chamber, Arya spoke to the leaders. "We cannot respond with violence. If we strike back, the peace we built will die in a single heartbeat." One leader said worriedly, "But what if they attack again?" Arya looked at the stars. "Then we stand together, not as soldiers, but as humans. Our strength is not in power, it's in unity." Up above, Valthar faced his fleet. He entered the war chamber where Admiral Corvus waited. The atmosphere was heavy with tension. "Why did you attack?" Valthar demanded. Corvus stood tall. "Because you've lost your honor. The Zathari were not made for peace. You stand here speaking of hearts and hope while our warriors grow soft. I acted for our kind." Valthar's voice was quiet but firm. "You acted for your pride, not for our people." Corvus took a step closer. "You would rather serve these fragile beings than lead us to glory?" Valthar met his gaze calmly. "Glory built on fear is not glory. It is emptiness." There was a long silence. The tension between them felt like a storm waiting to break. But instead of drawing weapons, Valthar did something unexpected. He turned away. "I will not fight you," he said simply. Corvus froze. "You refuse combat?" "Yes," Valthar replied. "If you believe I am weak, then strike. But I will not destroy what I came to protect." Corvus hesitated. His hand trembled over his weapon. He looked into Valthar's eyes, calm, unwavering. Something inside him shifted. For the first time, he saw his commander not as weak, but as something stronger than he could understand. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. Hours later, a message was broadcast from the Zathari fleet to the entire world. "The conflict within our ranks is over. We came to test humanity's strength and found something greater. We found truth." People all over Earth listened in silence. The voice of Valthar continued. "You have shown us that peace is not the end of strength, but its beginning. The Dominion will remember this day. The 1,000-year peace you built has reached the stars." Tears filled Arya's eyes as she heard the words. She looked at the horizon where the alien ships shone like morning stars. Milo whispered beside her. "Did we win?" Arya smiled softly. "No, Milo. We reminded them that there was never a war to win." That night, humanity celebrated. Not with fireworks or weapons, but with songs. The Zathari joined in from orbit, sending waves of color across the night sky. The two species sang together, one in light and one in sound, united by understanding. Valthar stood at the window of his ship. The sun rose over a silent Earth. The alien ship still floated above cities, but none had moved for days. The Zathari forces, once proud and confident, were now confused and tired. Their weapons had failed, their energy was fading, and their minds were filled with one question. Why do humans keep laughing? On board the command ship Virkan, Supreme Commander Arthal stood before the large observation window. His sharp silver eyes watched the blue planet below. Every attempt to attack had ended the same way, failure. They fired energy beams and the beams vanished before touching the ground. They tried to drop plasma bombs, but the bombs turned into harmless light. It was as if the planet itself refused to be hurt. Report, Arthal commanded. His second-in-command, Captain Vexari, looked defeated. Commander, our weapons do not function in their atmosphere. The moment they enter Earth's field, they lose power. It's like the planet is alive. Arthal turned to him sharply. Alive? That is impossible. Planets cannot think, but deep inside even he began to wonder. He had seen impossible things since this war began. The humans had done nothing to defend themselves, no fleets, no counterattacks, yet somehow every strike failed. And still they smiled. Meanwhile, on the surface, Dr. Arya Solon stood on the balcony of the Global Science Council tower. She gazed at the sky, her silver hair shining in the soft morning light. Beside her, Milo watched the alien ships hovering like lost birds. Do you think they'll try again? Milo asked. Arya smiled gently. No, I think they've already realized it's over. But they haven't surrendered, he said. Not yet, she replied, her tone calm. They are proud. They came here believing they would conquer us. But what they don't know is that humanity no longer plays by the old rules. Milo frowned. What do you mean? Arya turned to face him. 1,000 years ago, when peace began, humanity made a decision. We promised never to destroy again. We built something beautiful, not just cities, but consciousness itself. The Earth, Milo. It's no longer just a planet. It's awake. As if to prove her words, the ground beneath them hummed softly. Trees swayed even though there was no wind. The lights in the city pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Everywhere, a strange calm filled the air, as if the Earth itself was breathing with them. When the 1,000-year peace treaty was signed, humanity had created a global network called the Pulse, a living system that connected human minds, nature, and energy. It was designed to maintain balance, harmony, and emotion across the world. Over the centuries, the Pulse grew stronger. It learned from humanity, and humanity learned from it. Eventually, the Pulse became more than a system. It became sentient. That was the secret behind the laughter. Humans didn't laugh because they were foolish. They laughed because they knew nothing could harm them anymore. They were one with their planet. Up above, Commander Arthal received a message from the Earth. It wasn't a warning nor a demand. It was an invitation. A single line appeared on the ship's main screen. Come and see. The words glowed softly, written in every Zathari language. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. What do we do, Commander? Captain Vexari asked. Arthal hesitated. Every instinct told him it was a trap. Yet curiosity pulled him stronger than fear. Prepare a landing shuttle, he said at last. If humanity wants us to see, we will see. When their shuttle entered the atmosphere, they expected resistance. Instead, they were guided by a beam of golden light. It carried them gently through the clouds and down toward a great open field, a place filled with greenery, shining rivers, and tall white towers that looked alive as if grown, not built. Waiting there stood Dr. Arya Solon, her white coat fluttering in the breeze. Around her were humans of all ages, scientists, farmers, children, elders. They stood calmly, smiling as if welcoming old friends. The shuttle landed softly. The door opened and Arthal stepped out, tall and armored in shimmering silver. His eyes scanned the humans. None of them were afraid. Arya stepped forward and bowed slightly. Welcome to Earth, Commander. You invited me, Arthal said slowly. I am here to understand how you stopped our weapons. What kind of power protects you? Arya smiled faintly. It's not power, Commander. It's peace, he frowned. Peace cannot stop plasma fire. No, she said softly. But connection can. She raised her hand, and the ground glowed beneath her feet. Light spread through the field like ripples on water. Arthal's sensors went wild, energy readings off the charts, yet calm and steady. He saw trees glowing, rivers sparkling, humans standing with their eyes closed as if sharing one thought. This is the Pulse, Arya explained. It connects every life on Earth. Every tree, every person, every drop of rain is part of it. When you fired your weapons, the Pulse absorbed their energy. It didn't fight you, it simply refused to let harm pass through. Arthal was silent for a long moment. You mean your planet protects you? Arya nodded. Yes, because we protected it first. For the first time, Arthal felt something he had never known before: respect. His people, the Zathari, had conquered many worlds, but never had they seen one that lived and breathed with its people. He looked at Arya and asked quietly, "Then why laugh at our declaration of war?" Arya's expression softened. "Because we saw our past in you. Once we too believed that war gave us strength. But we learned that peace gives something greater: understanding. When you declared war, we didn't hate you. We simply hoped you would see what we've seen." Arthal's eyes narrowed, confusion and humility mixing inside him. "You hoped for us?" "Yes," she said. "Because peace means wishing well even for your enemies." The Zathari commander turned his gaze to the sky. His ships hung motionless above, powerless and silent. He thought of his soldiers waiting for orders, of his people far away who believed conquest was honor. Maybe, he thought, they were wrong. "Commander," Arya said softly, "there's something I want to show you." She guided him through a path surrounded by glowing flowers. The air was warm, filled with the quiet hum of life. They stopped before a massive crystal that pulsed with light. It was the heart of the pulse, the core of the living network. Arya placed her hand on the surface. "Touch it," she said. Arthal hesitated, then placed his hand beside hers. In that instant, visions flooded his mind, images of human history, of pain, destruction, and then healing. He saw cities rise and fall, oceans reborn, and hearts connected by forgiveness. He saw laughter after tears, hope after loss. He stepped back, trembling. "Your world feels everything." "Yes," Arya said. "That's why it cannot fight. It can only heal." Later that night, as stars shimmered above, Arthal stood alone outside his shuttle. The gentle wind carried laughter from nearby villages. The sound no longer felt mocking, it felt beautiful. Captain Vexari approached him quietly. "Commander, what are your orders? Should we continue the war?" Arthal shook his head.
No, there will be no war.
"Not with them. But the council will listen," he said firmly. "They must. These humans have built something we could never imagine. They have mastered peace." He looked up at the moon and smiled for the first time in his life. "And I think I finally understand why they laughed." When he returned to his ship, Arthal sent a final message to his people. "The war is over before it began. The humans have shown us a truth far stronger than any weapon. Stand down." In response, the humans sent one final message back to the Zathari fleet: "Welcome to peace." The stars twinkled brighter that night, as if the universe itself smiled upon the quiet world below. Holding the white flower the little boy had once given him, its petals had not faded. He whispered, "Perhaps this is what our ancestors meant when they spoke of peace. Not silence, but harmony." And down on earth, Arya looked up at the stars and smiled. She could feel it. The universe had changed a little that day. The night sky was quiet above Earth. The alien ships that once glowed like silver daggers now floated peacefully among the stars. No weapons charged, no engines burned. It was as if the universe itself had paused to listen. Inside the Zathari flagship Virkan, Commander Arthal stood by the main window, looking down at the blue world below. He had seen thousands of planets in his lifetime, but none like this one. It did not just live, it breathed with warmth and light. Every heartbeat on its surface seemed to reach out and touch the stars. Behind him, Captain Vexari stood uncertainly. The once confident officer now spoke in a quiet voice. "Commander, the fleet awaits your decision. The High Council demands to know why we have not conquered Earth." Arthal did not turn around. His silver eyes remained fixed on the planet. "Because there is nothing to conquer," he said softly. "Only something to understand." Vexari frowned. "I do not understand you, sir." "They laughed at our declaration of war. They treated us as if we were small." Arthal finally turned. There was no anger in his face, only calm. "They laughed, Captain, because they have nothing to fear. They live in peace so deep that even our threats cannot touch it. Their laughter was not arrogance, but it was wisdom." He walked slowly to the command seat and placed his hands on the console. "Prepare a transmission to the entire fleet." Vexari obeyed. Moments later, every Zathari ship across the skies opened a channel. Holographic screens flickered, showing the face of their commander. "Soldiers of the Dominion," Arthal began, his voice steady and strong. "We came here believing we would bring glory to our name. We came ready to destroy, But we found something greater than war. We found a world where peace itself lives. A world where the people no longer fight because they no longer need to. Their planet protects them not with weapons but with understanding. He paused, letting the words sink in. We fired our weapons and the planet simply absorbed them. We threatened them and they smiled. I have seen their power, not power to destroy but to heal. And I tell you now, to strike such a world would not bring honor. It would bring only shame. Silence filled the air as his words spread through the fleet. Many of the Zathari officers looked at one another in disbelief. But slowly, one by one, they began to understand. For centuries, their people had lived for conquest, thinking strength came from control. Yet now they had seen another kind of strength, one that did not need to fight to win. Down on Earth, Dr. Arya Solon watched the skies from the balcony of her tower. Beside her stood Milo, still amazed at how the once threatening ships now hung motionless like stars. "Do you think they'll leave?" he asked quietly. Arya smiled gently. "Maybe. Or maybe they'll stay and learn. Either way, peace has already won." Milo looked thoughtful. "Do you think they'll ever understand what we really are?" Arya turned to him, her eyes full of calm wisdom. "They already have. The moment their commander touched the pulse, he felt everything we've built. Every tear, every laugh, every promise humanity made to never repeat its old mistakes. He felt our hearts." She looked back up at the sky. "Now the question is, what will they do with that feeling?" Hours passed. The world watched as the alien fleet began to move again. But instead of preparing for battle, the ships slowly turned toward one another, forming patterns across the upper atmosphere. From space, the formation looked like a giant circle, a sign of peace. In the main command hall, Arthal spoke again. "Transmit a message to the humans," Vixari hesitated. "What should I say, Commander?" Arthal thought for a moment, then smiled. A rare expression for a Zathari. "Tell them. We understand. Tell them we no longer come as enemies, but as students." Vixari bowed slightly and relayed the message. Moments later, the skies above Earth shimmered with glowing letters written in light. "The war is over. We wish to learn." On Earth, celebrations began across every city. Not wild or noisy, but gentle, filled with music, lights, and laughter that echoed softly through the night. Humanity didn't cheer because they had defeated someone. They rejoiced because they had shared peace with another world. Dr. Arya received a private message directly from the alien ship. It was from Arthal himself. "You told me peace gives understanding. I have seen it now. I wish to visit again, not as a commander, but as a friend." Arya smiled at the message. She turned to Milo and said, "Prepare a landing zone. We have guests to welcome." The next morning, the sky opened once more as a small alien shuttle descended gently onto a green meadow outside the city. People gathered nearby, not in fear, but in curiosity. Children waved flags of blue and white, the colors of Earth's peace. Flowers lined the ground as the ship touched down. When the doors opened, Arthal stepped out again, this time without armor. He wore a simple silver robe, a symbol of respect among his kind. Behind him followed several Zathari scientists and diplomats. Arya and Milo greeted them with warm smiles. "Welcome back to Earth," she said. Arthal bowed slightly. "This time I come not to lead, but to listen." For the next several weeks, humans and Zathari worked side by side. The aliens studied the pulse and learned how it connected all life. They discovered how humans had changed their world, how technology and nature worked together, how emotions were shared across distances, how laughter itself carried energy that healed. Arthal spent many days walking among humans, watching how they lived. He saw farmers singing to their crops, engineers building machines that grew like plants, and children playing with tiny drones that shimmered like butterflies. Every moment seemed to hum with quiet harmony. One evening, as the sun set behind the horizon, Arthal stood beside Arya on a hill overlooking the city. "This world," he said softly, "is beyond anything we could have imagined. We thought peace was weakness. Now I see it as the strongest force in the universe." Arya nodded. "Because peace is not the absence of strength. It is the control of it. It's knowing you could destroy but choosing not to." He looked at her thoughtful. "Your people learned this through pain, didn't they?" She sighed gently. "Yes, 1,000 years ago we nearly destroyed ourselves. The 1,000-year peace began not because we wanted to be kind, but because we were tired of suffering. Over time, we learned that kindness was the only way forward. The pulse was born from that hope, from our promise never to return to the darkness. Arthal looked down at his hands. Maybe it is time my people make the same promise. A week later, the Zathari Council sent a new message across the stars. It read, "The age of conquest is over. We will build our own pulse, a bond with our worlds and hearts. The humans have shown us the path." When the message reached Earth, people all over the planet gathered once again. Not to celebrate victory, but to celebrate connection. In every city, candles were lit and soft music played. The laughter that once confused the aliens now became a shared language between both species. As days turned into months, something extraordinary happened. The humans helped the Zathari plant the first seed of peace, a small crystal core built with human and alien technology. When placed in the heart of the Zathari homeworld, it would begin to grow a living network similar to the pulse. When the day came, the two worlds connected through a bright stream of golden light that stretched across space. For the first time in history, two planets shared one heartbeat. People watched from Earth as the sky glowed with brilliant colors. It was as if the universe had painted a rainbow across the stars. Later that night, Arya and Milo stood together on the same balcony where everything had begun. The laughter of humans and aliens echoed from the streets below. Milo turned to her and asked, "Do you think the peace will last another 1,000 years?" Arya smiled softly. "Maybe longer, because now it's not just our peace, it's theirs too." She looked up at the stars and whispered, "The 1,000-year peace is over, but maybe this is the beginning of something even greater." High above, in orbit, Arthal stood once more at the window of his ship, now filled with the gentle hum of harmony. He could feel the pulse even here, a soft rhythm connecting his heart to the world below. He closed his eyes and smiled quietly. "We came to conquer," he said to himself, "but found home instead." And in that silence a sound echoed across space, gentle, human, and pure. Laughter. But this time, it wasn't just human laughter. It was joined by the deep melodic tones of the Zathari, two species, two worlds laughing together beneath the endless sky. The universe had never sounded so peaceful,